Mitoma, and a brilliant finish out of the top drawer.
Hello and welcome to Seagulls Social, the Bournemouth match reaction. It was that diabolical that Maz refused to be here, didn't he? He messaged the chat, boys, I'm done with Brighton Hove Albion now. They've lost their identity. It's not the same club that I supported all those years ago. And he's done. Fair play. I might join him. Seagulls Social might be over. This season could be the final straw that broke the camel's back, Jack. Poor game. Bizarre comments from Hersler. A lot to unpack. A lot of moments to unpack in that game, despite it being 2-1. What were your immediate thoughts and how are you feeling, Jack? Are you hungover or are we getting a fresh Jack?
Yeah, always hungover. I got problems, man.
Don't we all?
Yeah. No, my immediate thoughts is it was just a bit shit, wasn't it? I don't know. This season seems to have just not got going at all. No matter how many times we tried to start it, we fought against City. Maybe that was sort of like a shotgun blast to get it going, and yeah, it's just not really doing anything. And yeah, it's hard to analyse that because I do think there were good things we did yesterday, but it just felt like yet another game so far this season of just starting poorly and not having the sort of minerals to sort of turn it around. I think the strange thing is, and what is ultimately the issue here, is if it wasn't for two individual errors or one big individual error, we arguably could have got a point. And a point away at Bournemouth is pretty good, but there were more issues than that, I think, in the game, and I think maybe that Man City game glossed over a little bit of that. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned as we get a bit later into the season.
But yeah, if you look at it like Michael Owen, you say if Takaipa doesn't get thrown into the advertising boardings, he's there at left back to maybe do a lot better than what Duncan Mitoma did to before Semenyo then pass it to Alex Scott. I can't remember which one it is. I think is Adam Scott the guy?
Adam Scott's a comedian.
Comedian, yeah, that's what I'm getting it mixed up. Well, our team was full of comedians yesterday. But if we look at it like Michael Owen, our left back would have been in that position if he wasn't thrown into the advertising boards. He might have done something better, prevented that goal. Okay, stays 0-0. We score our goal, fantastic, 1-0 up. Dunk doesn't make a mistake, and we don't concede a penalty and concede from the pen. And we win 1-0, and it's a brilliant away result. And we would be saying, great 3 points away at Bournemouth because they're an incredible team. That would be obviously a stupid way to look at football, but that was how some people might be able to look at it, including Michael Owen. But I do want to say credit to Bournemouth. In the preview, me and Maz did give them their flowers, give them their cherries, because they've lost so many players, similar to how Brighton do every single season. And somehow they've still kept the same identity. They've been really, really good. What an unbelievable start to the season they've had. And, they've still got the same manager, of course, but to lose loads of their key players, almost their whole back line, keeper and 3 defenders, they looked incredible, and what a start to the season it's been for them.
Yeah. And look, I think they deserve a credit for where they are. I think they play their brand of football, and it works really well. And, I think we discussed before the pod started that they seemed a bit heavy. They push people around, but that's an effective way of playing, especially when you're at home. And, I find Bournemouth an incredibly hard place to go for us as a team. And it has over the years. I mean, the first time I remember going there was about 2006, and Wayne Henderson fell over and conceded let the ball roll into his own net on the 90th minute, which was particularly frustrating. I remember seeing fully grown men fully lose their head that day. So, it was it's a place we've always struggled, but
in recent years, though, we haven't. We've done very well.
No, we have 5
out of 6 wins. Yesterday.
And of course. And yesterday, I think we just, I don't know, there was something not quite there yesterday, and I do think that there is a deeper problem. But yeah, credit to Bournemouth; they are a good team, and I think maybe to put a positive spin on it, a lot better teams than us are going to go to Bournemouth and lose this season, I expect. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, but I'm still not entirely convinced that was a result that should have happened.
No, I agree. I think maybe maybe this is biased, but I'd say a draw might have been a fair result, potentially. That could be just me being biased, though. But you did mention that maybe the aggression of Bournemouth. With the way the league is now, like if you look at how physical the bigger teams are getting now, even Tottenham are suddenly becoming an unbelievable team from set pieces with big players scoring from set pieces a lot of the time now. Are we falling behind in that? Because, you've got a lot of physical players at Bournemouth as well that are leaving a little bit of a dig in every single challenge. It doesn't look like we've ever really had the players or team to do that. Is that a massive, I don't know, not a red flag for us, but is that an issue of us falling behind? Is that why we maybe not winning a lot of 50-50s and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit of that. It's hard to just put it down to one thing because, I always think Brighton teams over the years have been not aggressive enough. I think we're not.
Yeah, we're always too nice.
We're always too nice, and yeah, I think there is an element that other teams are physically stronger than us, and I think this is something I spoke about with Mike actually, Mike, the famous Mike King. The intensity is so low this season. We're just not intense. We don't start games intense. We just seem to be so slow at everything. We take 3 or 4 touches too much. Towards the end of last season, we were hitting stuff first time. I think of almost the best goal, one of the best goals we scored last season was Yari's first against Liverpool, where, it's just bang, 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 3 touches. Where's that sort of stuff gone? We're just we're so hesitant and we're so, I don't know, I think we just don't look up to it at times. And
the only real players that look up to it, especially yesterday, were Rutter, Minter and Matoma. Maybe just the first two. Obviously Matoma scored, but he loves scoring against Bournemouth. But those were the only players that I thought those players need to stay on the pitch. Otherwise, we're definitely not going to win here. But it's worrying that it used to be a whole team collective, and it looked like we were unbelievable as a team. But now it looks like we're just relying on too many individuals, like Minter being one of them. Like he was sensational yesterday and had the better of Truefair a lot of the time, and everything is going through him. If he has an off day, then what's our plan B?
Yeah, and I do think there is an element of that, and yeah, I didn't think Rutter was that great yesterday, to be honest. In the number 10, I didn't really think he created anything, and yeah, he had
a few good moments.
A few good moments, good little bit of hold up play, but I don't know, he really did look up to it. And then when Gruder came on, he did look like he wanted to make stuff happen, but yeah, and I think it was a bit of a weird game because obviously we had 2 subs within the first half, which kind of killed the game off. It killed a lot of what we could do because then we're limited in our substitutions. And Hersler seems to be enjoying this kind of big change on the subs. Everybody changes all of a sudden.
He's gone from not making any subs that when he first came, we were saying, or making subs too late, to making these big bold changes, and obviously it paid off against City, but didn't pay off against Bournemouth.
I don't know. I just thought there were many disappointing aspects, and I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I'm just not seeing any style. I'm not seeing anything that's inspiring me. Okay, we're going to come back to the next game and really show it. Not to be overly negative, but other than a mad 25 minutes against City and the Oxford Cup game, obviously, we've been quite crap in all 4 games. Like, we've been, for the majority of the game, we've been pretty rubbish. So it's quite disappointing, like, that we're not sort of building on that City result, that mad 25 minutes, and we're just going back to type. And yeah, we're not having a stronghold over teams. Teams are superior than us, almost in all departments, in all the games, like you say, except for the 25 minutes against City. I don't know. It's hard to sort of define, but I'm really struggling to see the vision from Fabian Hersler here. What is the vision? Yeah.
We saw the vision, maybe not the vision, but we saw a good spell of play. Obviously, as soon as the second half started, obviously we scored really early on, but we looked bang up for it. And that looked like a Brighton team that I recognised. Not just saying that I only recognise Brighton when we're playing well, but even when we're playing badly, it's good we've got some sort of identity under previous managers, but we were so good, and then all of a sudden it just drops off. I don't really understand why can't we be at that level, if not even just close to that level from the get-go? We're starting so slow. I don't know what's happened over the summer. We've obviously lost some key, well, you say key players. Carlos Baleba looks like he's already playing like a Man United player. I saw someone tweet that and I thought that's so true. Is this down to injury, Jack, or do you think over the pre-season, the lack of game time in pre-season, obviously missed games? Or do you think that transfer saga has really, really messed with his head? Because I would think it could be the latter now, because we're 4 or 5 games into the season now, if you include the cup matches, and he looks miles off it.
Yeah, I do think. I think a combination of things, the lack of pre-season and the lack of the transfer saga has definitely affected him. He's just not looking at his best. He's not dominating the midfield like he normally does. Yeah, there's you look at that and it's really disappointing. But I still stand by this theory, which I've said. So I thought the pre-season was so disjointed for everyone in the squad. We've had some weird decision-making calls, like, you know, why did we persist through the whole of pre-season with a player that we're just quite happy to get rid of as soon as the transfer window closed? You know, we built like our whole pre-season, all our training, all our play around Matt O'Reilly, who's now disappeared. And look, I didn't think Matt O'Reilly was very good. Don't get me wrong, but we built this whole thing. We played this whole pre-season. It seems like we've just dicked around for a couple of months. And now it's like, okay, the season started now. I don't know. I just think, you know, the split squad thing, a lot of these players have never really had any experience of playing with other players. You know, we've got sort of like this half split down the middle squad where some of these players just aren't really getting a look in or playing at all. I don't know. It's just, there's no mix. There doesn't seem to be like this coherent squad. It does seem to be at times a team of individuals. And I think that could be seen in parts of the game yesterday where we were doing a press and you had, you know, towards the end you had Seamas and Gruder running in on the press. So they're limiting the options. So I think they're number 5. He didn't want the ball. He's looking for options at the ball. But because nobody else has joined the press as well, he's just got an option to drop it to the central midfielder because central midfielder's coming in and nobody's following in the press. Work together, you know. Do something coherent because they're not doing coherent stuff together. They're just, one player's doing this, one player's doing that. And every now and then, maybe, you know, Minter will whip in an amazing cross and Matoma will put the header in. But I don't know. I just think there's just a lot where it's just sort of looking very disjointed. And it looks like we just don't really know what we're doing. I'm not here to just slag off the manager, but I need to see some sort of vision here because so far, his vision has been start every game crap. And that is what our game plan seems to be. And that's what we've been doing. We have been crap for, other than 25 minutes against City, we've been pretty crap.
Also, it's just, I think people get frustrated with the amount of changes. I don't think we've had the same 11 for a long, long time. And I think that was a bit of a theme last season. We were saying you don't get results if you're constantly changing the team. And then we had a spell where we had the same team and we started getting results, and me and Maz and you that looked like geniuses. It's almost like Herzler was listening to the podcast, but you know, Baleba doesn't start. Milner plays. I
thought he was okay, actually.
Yeah, he was okay.
Milner was one of the better players, to be honest.
He got a bit of stick online. Some people saying that Herzler needs to stop this charity run for him to get the most appearances.
I think that's very harsh. I think Milner's played it. I think he played really well against City, so I think he's played himself into a starting position. So I've not got a problem with that.
And do you reckon, obviously, Ayari maybe because of international duty, is that why he's not starting? Obviously, he has to come on straight away for Hinchwood, which we will get onto. But were there any players that you were surprised and were disappointed not to see start?
Not really, because, you know, our most effective game so far has been when we bring on people as subs. So I'm not saying like start Gruder or whatever, because he seems to be he's been effective off the bench. But, you know, we've got to get a stronghold in a game. We've got to dominate a game. If your whole plan is, and what it looks like, his whole plan is just, you know, sit deep, only go to 1-0. You know, there were times yesterday where it looked a bit weird, where we were almost walking around like we were 1-0 up when we were 1-0 down. And I don't know whether this is all part of the game plan of keep it to 1-0 and then we can attack them late on. I don't know, but that's not going to be effective in a lot of games. That's not going to get you in Europe places. It's not even going to get you in the top half of the table. There's got to be a better plan than this. We've got to start games by dominating, and we seem to be impossible to even do that. We don't even look like doing that. We don't put our foot down and look like we can play well from the start, and that's worrying. That's worrying to me. And And that's where you've got to sort of go like, I'm not sure what's going on here, but this is now 4 games in a row where we've looked pretty lackluster from the start. So yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're seeing consistency with issues with the first 4 games in the Prem, then you can really only blame the manager, right? If he's got enough players to maybe make changes and figure out a plan B, even though we don't even know what the plan A is. I think we can give a little bit of leeway on Fabian for this one, seeing as Hinshelwood goes down after 30 seconds, who's obviously a very, very key player for us. De Kuiper, one of our new players down the left, who's looking at how we play on the wing, very, very vital to probably how we play and maybe the game plan that Hursley did have. So you can say maybe the game's it's just completely not our day once those 2 things happen.
I agree.
On Hinshelwood and De Kuiper's injuries, obviously straight away it looked like Hinshelwood had ligament issues, and the physio scout on Twitter, I know it's not the Bible, but he pretty interesting stats. So he said the recovery times for Hinshelwood, if it is ligament issue, it's usually a lot more painful. I mean, I think most of us have like rolled our ankles and that sort of thing before. It's awful for the first few days, maybe week, and then it kind of swells down a little bit. So it says the recovery grade 1 can be 1 to 2 weeks, grade 2 3 to 4 weeks, grade 3 4 to 6 weeks, or over 6 weeks. Usually extremely painful at first, but settles quickly. He was in tears. I don't know if you saw. Maybe you didn't because you were in the ground. He was in tears while sat on the pitch and coming off. He looked really distraught. It's almost like he's thinking. I mean, I know I have been, but thinking about, will this affect his chance of getting in the England squad? Because that was one of my takes for this, hot takes of this season, that Jack will get into the England squad this season. How disappointing was that when you saw him go down straight away? And then obviously to Kuiper, were you just putting this down so this is just one of those days, nothing's going to go right for us?
Not really. I think it was just one of those. The De Kuiper one, like, I think I've seen people saying we can't just blame the referee for De Kuiper not being on the pitch. That's not why we lost. And I agree, that's not why we lost for De Kuiper. But that was such piss poor refereeing. And one thing that I just think is worth highlighting is, and it's gone under the radar a little bit, but PGOMO have been fucking appalling this season. Like, every game there is some sort of mental decision which just doesn't work. And it's quite disappointing to see that they're just sort of, there's no sort of sign of improvement. Referees not putting, and Semenyo knows exactly what he's doing there. He's left a little shove in, and I've done that before when I've played football. You know what you're doing.
Into the Battersea cages.
Yeah, into the Battersea cages. And, you've done it, and he knows what he's doing, and he's caused an injury, and it should be a yellow card, really, and a foul. Incredibly disappointing that, but, you can't blame on that. And it's also like, I've seen our players do stupid shit like that before. So it's not like an excuse that we've done this, and, so I'm not blaming the whole loss on that. But yeah, I think that was pretty piss poor refereeing.
In my opinion, that is a key changing point. I know we touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
He's down. It should have been a foul. And then he's not he's not playing left back. He's running onto the pitch as they score. It's like, that just I think pisses me off.
What is getting particularly frustrating is this 30-second rule and how it's being used. That sometimes there are players who are able to stay on the pitch, sometimes they aren't. There's no consistency in it, which I think is the whole refereeing issue, isn't it? The complete lack of consistency across the board, and nobody's really saying, oh yeah, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, and the referees are just sort of sitting there twiddling their thumbs, not really doing anything. So this throwing you into the advertising board, bizarrely really, last season I witnessed 2 players get sent off for that. So I'm not saying it should be a sending off. I think it's very harsh to send someone off for just sort of nudging someone and they've ended up in the advertising board, because he has sort of just flown into him. But it's that's potentially now a key player, or a key player for what Hursley wants, out for a month or something. I don't know.
So it says again potential recovery times: grade 1 1 to 3 weeks, grade 2 3 to 6 weeks. Potentially stressing the MCL. I mean it's. If it also, you got to remember, it's like he's getting pushed onto hard ground, like concrete. Yeah. It's not like he's going into grass, like that's kind of cushion it a little bit before hitting the advertising board. I think it's just, I know players do it all the time, well, not all the time, but you see it at least probably once a week. But it is well dangerous. Like if he hits his head, then he's that's an even more dangerous injury.
You have the example of the player at Bath City who went into a coma. I mean, obviously that's I'm going a bit over the top there because that was just like a pure concrete wall. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but I don't think it's like I'm not going to go like Semenyo's a dirty player. He did it on purpose. He probably just leant in slightly with a nudge at the end.
No, he did. It looked like it was both hands, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think in that exact moment Semenyo's going, I'm going to push him into the wall so I injure him.
But surely he is. Like, what else does he expect the push to do?
Yeah,
I know what you're trying to say, but I think if you're pushing someone whilst they're running at full speed, you're
of
push
course,
them further into
like I said,
advertising board.
I've done it when I've shoved someone into the walls in a cage, and I going through my head, I'm doing this intentionally to injure you or push you. I'm just going fuck off basically, and then just giving someone a shove because that's what essentially you do, and then you go like, oh shit, I've fired him into the wall. So I don't know. I'm not going to do like a witch hunt for Semenyo, which some people...
I'm not. It's not just his fault. I think this is also maybe comes back to the conversation we had earlier about that little bit of aggression and leaving something on the man, that which we never do. I mean, if I'm trying to think what Brighton player would do what Semenyo done, immediately say Joel Veltman probably has that dog in him to do that. It looked like every Bournemouth player was bang up for it and would do anything to get a win, which sometimes I just don't feel like Brighton players do anything in their power to get a win. I'm not saying Brighton players should start pushing players into the advertising board, but leave a bit on your man. Do what Roy Keane says, let him know you're there, because it does make a big difference. I think our players are too nice. Even when we joined the Premier League, that famous Paul Merson saying, oh, a trip to Brighton, it doesn't scare me because they're a nice club, they're a nice team to play against. In the Premier League, you can't be a nice team to play against.
No.
We've done incredibly well to get where we are whilst being a nice team and playing nice football, but there's got to come a time when we start having a little bit of aggression and intensity, like you said. That's just unfortunate. And then, Hinshelwood, obviously, we wish him the best, and De Kuyper. Really hope that they're back in the team straight away because two very, very key players.
I think De Kuyper actually started to look good in the City game, and then, now he's
scored for Belgium on international duty. They won 6-0 in both games, and then he's off within 25 minutes against Bournemouth. You can't write it. It's an absolute joke, and it's such a shame to see the way he went and conceding straight after. I did want to touch on Fabian. I think we got sidetracked a little bit. Shocked. I think I did because I ended up talking about Baleba whilst I wanted to talk about Fabian Hersler. Is this game down to Fabian, do you think, Jack?
Ooh, I mean, it's down to Lewis Dunk if you really want to be that specific, because he has given away the ball for the equaliser. I don't know. You can't. I don't think we've lost because of Fabian. Well, I suppose we have because the manager's kind of in charge of everything. I don't know. I find it very hard to see what Fabian's bringing at the moment. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not seeing. I'm seeing a group of very talented players, albeit not as talented as probably last season, but some very talented players that are sort of being jumbled together. I don't know. It's a strange one. I don't want to, because I do think that we're not doing anything. I don't know. We just nothing's working. Nothing's happening. I'm waiting for this big moment where it all comes together, and it's not.
But it looked like it did at the start of last season. We started so well. Thinking, we've made the right choice. Hersler was our fourth choice manager, reportedly, and we started off so well. And now it's looking like, this is why this is our fourth choice manager, and this maybe are we seeing the repercussions for that? I
think the problem is that we've and this has been a big talking point on Twitter, and I do think it's a fair talking point, but also slightly unfair. I think at the start of last season we had a very talented squad. I wouldn't say it's our best squad ever, as many people say, but we had a very talented squad. And I think they all came together and played really well for those first few games. And that's why we started getting results, and we started seeing some real good individual ability. What we've done now is we've taken some of that individual talent out, Pedro being one of them. I still don't think we're missing him specifically. But, and then we've taken people like Purvis out. Belieber's not up to form. Van Heck's not been very good, I think it's fair to say. He's not been very good so far. So once you start taking...
Also, another player that was linked with the move away.
Once you take some of that ability out, and I think there's this whole debate about, we should have kept Pedro. There was no scenario in which Pedro stayed this summer. It just depends on how much money we got for him, which we probably got less than we should have. And that's like the end of that argument. Pedro was going regardless of what happened in the summer. He wasn't interested in staying. He saw himself at a bigger club, and whether he has the fight with Van Heck and doesn't miss the last 3 games or does, I think he still goes. So there's no point stressing over that. We are sadly Brighton Hove Albion. Well, no, we are Brighton Hove Albion, and we don't have that kind of pull to keep that level of quality of player forever. I think that's a fact that I think some people are just going to have to come round and accept. And I know that's going to sound really annoying for them, but that's the truth. We're not.
Apparently, Gianfranco Zola was impressed with Facundo Buonanotte and João Pedro yesterday. I know Chelsea did draw against Brentford, but apparently Facundo got some minutes. And
he came off at half time. Stinker and hook.
Did he?
That's what I've heard.
Right, I didn't.
No, he wasn't. It wasn't stinker and hook. I didn't watch the game either, but he came off at half time.
Why would Zola say that? Maybe God knows.
I don't know, but if you look at Zola's reign at Birmingham City, you can see why he might say that, because it was fucking appalling. But yeah, I think you take some of the talent out of this team, and you've got a lot of young potential talent that's come in. But Seamas, he came on and he looked a bit physically weak. I don't want to criticise him massively, and he did some nice touches and he pressed well, so that was good. But Danny Welbeck also being so poor early on in the season. I actually thought yesterday Danny Welbeck had his best game for us this season. And he looked most like scoring, and he had some nice touches. So credit to him on that. But, Seamas is the future, I guess, in that position. And he's a 19-year-old who's got very little experience. I think we've just followed the data a little bit too much.
Yes, definitely. We saw, you might know his name better than me, but it's BHAFC, the guy with the cactus in his hat.
Oh, yeah. I don't know who that guy is. He definitely, exists and goes to games, but I don't know who he is. He's a very interesting character.
He had a good take. Well, I say good take. He had a take that I've screenshotted to talk about. He said, we sold / loaned 4 Prem-proven attackers for 3 19-year-olds that have never played top-flight football. That maybe backs up your point, saying we followed the data too much and we maybe got lost a little bit. And because it looks like that, we're bringing on a player to change the game who played for Nuremberg last season. It's no disrespect, but we saw he was great against Oxford, of course. Oxford, the levels where they are. Let's remember that. And then we're trying to rely on him as our number 9 to change the game. When we've got Evan Ferguson cooking in Serie A, albeit a different league. Some people say that's a farmers league. But do you think, maybe that does back up your point, Jack, about we have maybe got lost in the data a little bit? Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence David Weir's disappeared this week.
Yeah, of course. Shit, we haven't
that he's left, and it looks like bringing a new director of football. I don't know. I think some of the transfer business has been a bit strange this summer. I still think Facundo should have stayed here, and I think he would have been an asset. But then we're building a team for Fabian on the way he likes to play, and I'm not seeing what this way he likes to play is. And I think that's the most concerning thing. If we're moving on proven players because they don't fit our system, why are we doing that for a manager who doesn't seem to have a clear way of playing? I don't know. I just think it all seems a bit of a jumbled mess already. And it feels like we're still in pre-season. And we're 4 games into the season. We're still kind of testing stuff. And he's got to work out quick as well. Because I think this is the worrying thing. If you look at our fixtures coming up, he's got to hit the ground running soon. Or we're going to be looking at, 7 points within the first 7 games? That's relegation form. Because if you're looking at, and that is very dramatic for me to say that, but we've got Tottenham next week. They look on fire. They've just won 4-0. Then we've got Chelsea after that. That's going to be a hard game at Stamford Bridge. There's no doubt in my mind that that's going to be a hard game. And then we've got Wolves away, which is, then you're looking, right, is this the time where does that become a must-win game? Because how are we going to... Where are we going to get points from if we don't get points from Wolves? Because then we've got Newcastle at home, Champions League side. Then we've got, I think, Leeds at home after that. Oh no, Man United away. Which is going to be harder than last year. I don't know. I think the worrying trend is, for me, that of the games we've played thus far, we're 9 points worse off. Because, 7 points worse off than we were in the same corresponding fixtures last season. Because we beat Fulham, we beat Bournemouth, and we beat Everton away. And that's where the worrying stuff, where are we going to pick up these extra points from? I think, and I do think people who were talking about, top 5 finishes may have been slightly deluded. Like a top 5 finish was going to be incredibly hard anyway. And now it looks like, I think that top 5 sort of finish is probably out of our reach a bit unless something turns around very, very quickly.
I know you mentioned Fulham, which just reminded me of looking at how they won their game yesterday. 0-0 at home against Leeds, 94th minute, and the Leeds defender heads the ball in his own net, like the most incredible goal I've ever seen. It's just those sorts of wins seem to fall into Fulham's lap a little bit and other teams' lap. And I'm not saying that we have it bad, we have it hard, but it's hard to ever think of when we ever get results like that. When we get 3 points without playing well. It's very, very rare that ever happens to us. And for some reason, it happens to teams like Fulham all the time. How they 0-0 against Leeds, and then
I think we got
frustrating.
But I think I'm a big believer in you make your own luck, but also luck goes around, doesn't it? Because think of the games last season where we were quite crap and still managed to win. Newcastle away, Bournemouth at home, Bournemouth away. I didn't think we were that good, although we got unlucky with a red card in that game. But all these games sort of stack up, and your luck doesn't last forever, and we need to start dominating games and making our own luck rather than relying on a dodgy deflected goal. Yeah,
I know that's sidetrack, but I do want to go back to Fabian because his quote's doing the rounds. Jack, I don't know if you've seen it. I'll read it out if anyone hasn't heard it. He said the performance was quite good. We dominated the game. We had chances. We just made the wrong decisions. The small margins made the difference and we weren't at our highest level. Now, I'm going to read the stats. So he said we dominated the game. Possession we normally have, to be fair, but Bournemouth had 51% possession over ours. We had chances. Hard to say we had a couple chances, but if you're an XG analyst, that Bournemouth had 1.5 XG and we had 0.62 XG. They had 13 shots on total shots.
A penalty will warp that, though.
That's true. Okay, yeah, fair. All right, so let's ignore it, XG, as a lot of people do. They had 13 shots compared to our 6. They had 5 on target compared to our 2. So a lot of people saying, Fabian, I don't know what game you were watching, and I'll have to agree. I don't know what game Fabian was watching because we didn't dominate the game. We had maybe a couple chances, and the performance wasn't quite good. It was pretty poor. So, Jack, what game was Fabian Hersler watching?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one again from him. There's been some weird comments he's made over the last season. I didn't think we dominated the game, and I didn't think we were that good, that we sort of were above and beyond. So yeah, thought that was quite an odd comment, but I'm used to odd comments in his post-match and pre-match pressers. So I'm not looking too much into that. I kind of read that and just put my phone down and went, well, that was wrong. Yeah, like I don't know much more that I can really say about Fabian, that I'm just starting to have some doubts about him, and I'm willing to prove him wrong. And there will be a point where, we're very good at going on bad runs and good runs. I was hoping that consistency would be hurt. So there's no reason that we can't go out and beat Spurs like we did against City, and move it on. But yeah, I just didn't. I don't know. I'm not seeing the vision. That's what it is.
How long left has Hersler got for you, Jack?
Hersler's. I'm very, very against the idea of going sack him, and I don't think we will. It'll be a long time before he's moved on. But I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Like, I want to give him more time. I want to give him benefit of the doubt. But how long does it carry on for? If we lose to Spurs, if we lose to Chelsea, then we beat Wolves, is that just another time that he's being slowly clawed back into the job?
Well, those are games that you'd expect those sorts of results to happen. I mean, maybe last season you'd say we could get a draw against Spurs or beat Spurs, but Spurs are looking unbelievable. Saw them play against West Ham; they're looking great, albeit West Ham are pretty poor this season.
Yeah.
But for Brighton's expectations, you'd look at Tottenham and Chelsea and say maybe a point, could lose both, but we should beat Wolves. So that would maybe be a fair run, as much as some fans will say no, we should be getting a point off of Tottenham and a point off of Chelsea, but realistically,
I think if we want to be where people want us to be in like top 5, you've got to be looking at those games as win and draw. So that shows how insane top 5 finishes.
Those expectations.
Now, those expectations were insane. Top 8, you've got to be looking for a win from one of those two on top of Wolves, or then like I said, we at best we're looking at 7 points after 7. Would it be 7 games? Yeah, it'd be 7 games. And then, we've got a Barnsley game coming up. We've got a great opportunity to win the League Cup. Would I like to finish 17th and win the League Cup? Yes, I would 100% take 17th and winning a League Cup. I take winning a League Cup and going down. That's how mental.
Interesting. Is that because of what happened with Palace, or do you think
No, I just want to win a trophy, man. I just want to win a trophy. So, we've got a great tie. Let's stay in that and let's be sensible with that and then see where it goes from there. But yeah, I think we've got 3 games coming up now where it's going to be pretty crucial for Fabian if he wants to be at the right end of the table come the end of the season. Now, what the club's view on that is it's a slow process, and where we want to finish is above relegation, really. And I understand that view as well. I don't think this season is the season to be making that move to that play for Europe, if that makes sense. A
lot of fans thought it was going to be because of the signings. Like, obviously, last season we made so many signings. Yeah, looked like it was starting to.
And I think last season, I've emphasised this a few times, and I think we were incredibly unlucky last season not to get Europe. To have a team outside the top 8 win a cup, therefore taking that European place away, and then to finish 8th, the best of the rest, really. In any other season in Premier League history, other than maybe 1 or 2 before they had more European places, we would have got Europe. So I think he's very unlucky to finish outside of the European places last season. It does seem this season that the odds are quite stacked against us. So maybe it's just another, and I hate using the word, but maybe it is just another transition season. And I don't think that's an indictment on Hurzeler. I think that's an indictment on when you're a club of our size, you have to take the opportunities when they arise to you. And we haven't got that kind of opportunity this year because all the top 6 clubs are good or are looking better. So we're not going to have that opportunity to slide in behind enemy lines and finish in a 6th position. It's interesting that we're still not doing that badly when you compare us to Villa, though. So, still not scored a goal all season.
They're the only team in the top 7, top 7 leagues in England. I don't know if it's the UK, in England, to not have scored a goal yet. It's crazy. And they're aiming for Unai Emery's head. Would you take Unai Emery, Jack?
Yeah, obviously I'd take Unai Emery.
There we go. Give us a trophy.
But we've got Fabian Hurzeler now, and I do genuinely believe that. So we should be respectful and we should back the manager. But I do think time is ticking for him a little bit now. Probably the first time it has ever, even including the 7-0 game where I was like, I'm done with him, I want him gone, which is probably a bit harsh because he went on an amazing run. But I do think maybe some things are closing in on him a little bit now that, you've had your opportunity to show us, maybe be a bit inconsistent. Now you've got to show us what you're made of. And I'm not seeing what we're made of at all. And I don't know whether that's solely down to him or transfers. And I do have a little bit of sympathy that he hasn't had the greatest hand given to him by some of the major changes, but these are probably major changes which have gone through him this in pre-season. So it's not like he's going, I want everyone gone. he's probably said that. He's probably happy to let Purvis go. He's happy to do that. And I was happy to let Purvis go. I didn't think he was very good over the last season. Yeah, it felt like the right time. So let's maybe not look at Purvis, but I think that lacks us experience. And then, of course, injuries have caught up with us again, straight in. Something has to be looked into that. Don't know how we can fix that, really.
Even set pieces. I thought we had a set piece coach and doesn't really look. We had one chance when Welbeck went and fell to him, but I mean, you're looking at Brentford. They've scored quite a few goals this season already from set pieces.
Yeah.
It looks like the league is turning set pieces. I know I mentioned it earlier, but Thomas Frank's Tottenham are becoming corner experts as well.
Yeah.
We're falling behind in that department as well, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. We want to rattle through a few more points before we finish. Brighton N1D put, myself and everyone else need a reminder, nothing is won or lost in the first few weeks. Correct. It's always good to get a good start, though.
Yeah.
Many teams have way worse starts and have good seasons. I mean, if you look at Palace, they normally start bad and end well,
definitely.
Which is true. He said, we've got some good games coming up over the next 2 months or so. And if we don't end up in the top 8 or so after those, then I would say Fabian out. I mean, the next, I don't know. There are a lot of people will say there are no easy games in the Premier League. True, but there are easier games than some. We do, and we all knew our start of the season was going to be difficult. So, if we can look past the next run of games and we are in a better position, then I think that things would have levelled out. But we can't really predict the future.
I do think that. Do you know? I think that's a great point surrounding Glasner, Glasner's Palace. They started really poorly last season. And finished quite poorly, actually, because they only finished 12th in the end. But
despite the trophy.
Yeah, I mean, the trophy is obviously the big thing. And I think that probably is why they dropped off towards the end a little bit, is because, you're concentrating on the FA Cup. You're not going to put your all into the league game when you're safe. I do think that's an interesting point that, we could just turn this around and we've got to give it time. Palace fans are willing to sack Glasner. And I think if somebody would have told you that 6 months later, you'd have been like, what the hell? There is that aspect that we could just go on a mad run. I hope we do.
Of course.
But I'm not seeing the vision that may take us there. And then you've got to question, why wasn't that sorted out in pre-season? Because then you just think, well, this whole first part of the season is wasted. And then we could, if we go on a mad run and finish top 8, after having it, and you go, well, then we could have finished top 5 if you just sorted this out at the beginning of the season, instead of dicking around with Matt O'Reilly for 2 games. Not that I'm bitter about that particular time, but I do think that is concerning that that we focus so much on this player, which then was thrown out the window almost straight away. I don't get it. I don't see what does Herzl actually want from the team. What is his best 11, and what is his best 11?
Yeah,
that was going to be the real question.
We don't know. I want to talk about 11s quickly as well. I know we mentioned Dunk. He had a good start to the season. I don't think many Brighton fans can argue that. No. It was a surprise that he did, actually, because we all thought his time was done. Well, not done, but he was going to be maybe coming off the bench or starting on the bench. But he started, he's looked good, makes one mistake. But I saw someone call him Dunk, but spelled with a D and then brackets UNC, like Unk. I thought that was quite funny. I love memes. But yeah, one mistake and people are calling for him to be dropped. Do you think that in the Tottenham game we should be seeing Champions League Basagley or a young centre-back in Coppola play? Because obviously Bournemouth had to put their trust in their centre-back. I can't remember his name. Began with an M. He was an 18-year-old centre-back and had an unbelievable game against us. I think he won Bournemouth's man of the match when they read out over the tannoy, didn't he?
Milenkovic, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Milenkovic, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we then drop Dunk, do you think? Is that the right move for Tottenham?
Dunk. I think he hasn't done anything wrong to be dropped thus far this season. So I do think it is a one mistake. But, he was already on thin ice, shall we say, that from the tail end of last season. I don't know. I personally think it's time to bring in Olivier Boscagli.
Yeah.
He's younger. He's got Champions League experience. He's sitting on a bench. I think it's time for him to come in and fill that void, especially with, looking like the Kuiper's out and he might need somebody who's a bit more mobile. And he's not that mobile, Boscagli, but he's probably more mobile than Dunk and helping out Ferdy at that left-back position. So, yeah, I think...
Quick on a Ferdy. Do you think he obviously had a lot of minutes against Bournemouth because of the injury?
I thought he did okay, actually.
Yeah.
I think he did fine. I didn't think he was amazing. He looked very hesitant at times and maybe didn't quite do the runs that he had to do. But I think he defended really well. People have been saying that he can't defend. I thought he defended fine at times, and there was a really good block he did where he basically collected the ball and drove it forward quite late on in the game. So, yeah, I thought Ferdy did fine in that position. That he's gonna have to fill the void for the rest of the season.
Buscaglia.
Buscaglia and Ferdy on that left-hand side.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm still hesitant to drop Dunk because he was good, and we do all know, I think throughout his Brighton career, he's had these bozo moments in him.
Yeah.
So, but on the whole, he's very good. So, yeah, maybe it is time. I think it probably is time to bring in Olivier Buscaglia or Diego Coppola, and see what they can do, because they're not just going to be sitting around doing nothing for that time.
Yeah, if not now, when, Fabian? It wasn't Milenkovic, so I didn't want to say it. It was Milo Savljevic. So it's Milo, Savljevic.
Yeah.
Milo Savljevic. Yeah, not sure.
Yeah.
But he was very good, regardless. So we touched on Simas's debut as well. Obviously, tough one to come into straight away. Didn't really make too much of an impact. But hopefully time will tell. Last point, because you mentioned it, the new director of football. Obviously, we saw David Weir leave. A lot of Man United fans saying, go for him. He was the one behind Matoma. He was the one behind Caicedo, Cucurella. I feel like 5 different Brighton staff have been labelled the man behind those signings. It's just not true. Director of football, apparently we're linked with a former Arsenal director of football or assistant. Is it Jason Ato? Ato?
Yeah.
I think Ryan found an interesting tweet about him from February 2025 from an Arsenal fan, saying, remember how reports noted that the Arsenal hierarchy were impressed with Jason Ato, despite Arteta and the senior players publicly saying we need help. It gives you an insight into how our hierarchy thinks. They want a director who is a yes man to them and has no courage. That was an Arsenal fan saying that. So are we thinking that...
Ooh.
Is he just going to be a yes man? Or I don't know what to state. And Ryan basically quote tweeted it saying yikes. And I don't know, it's an interesting take if that is true.
I don't know. I think Arsenal fans are mentally deranged sometimes, so I wouldn't look at a fucking word they say. I don't agree with that. I think he looks like he's got good, and they've made some very good transfers recently, Arsenal. So yeah, I think that's I don't have an issue with that really. I just think that's an Arsenal fan chatting wham. Why
do you think David's left? Obviously, I doubt you've got unless any of your sources have told you.
My inside sources. No. Yeah, I know they've turned out to be true, haven't they? One of them was just complete bullshit. I can't remember which one that was about somebody leaving. I think it's I haven't been overly impressed with some of the transfers in the last few years. I think we've got good fees for people leaving, but it does seem that the squad building has not been ideal. You know, last season we definitely had like the missing defenders. We had the missing, the fullback issue popped its really, really ugly head again. We still haven't got a right back, which I think is this problem that we've ignored for about 5 or 6 years. We've just been like, oh yeah, okay, it's fine. We've got Lamptey and Veltman who don't really do anything, like in the sense that they just keep on getting injured, and one of them's about 33 now, so time is running out for Joel Veltman. He could be like a James Milner and go until he's like 40, but and I do think like some of the player development hasn't been very good. You look at a lot of our very young promising players, especially domestic loans. You've got players going to teams where they just don't fit at all. And, you're looking at someone like Ayari, for example, is clearly, and, a lot of people seem to really dislike Ayari. I really like Ayari. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's been very good for us thus far this season. But he went to 2 clubs, which just didn't suit him in any way whatsoever. And teams just didn't want to use him at all. Coventry and Blackburn, what is proven to be a very talented player. Very talented player, was just sent to places where he just didn't fit at all. And I think, I remember Tony Bloom saying that Ferguson and Moran were the future of the club. Moran's been sent on some really crap loans, where he just hasn't performed.
Is he in the MLS at the moment?
And now he's in the MLS. Yeah, exactly. So I do think some of the talent development has not been as good as it could have been. And as director of football, you would presume that that's what comes under his remit of director of football. So it'll be interesting to see where we go with this. I think a lot of people have been moaning about the transfers in and you know, you look at last season, we bought 100 number 10s and no centre backs, like I previously alluded to. It's that maybe it's time to look at a fresh new approach, and I do think
it's
it is
interesting because that's what Tony Bloom, using his quote about the departure, said there was no disagreements or anything like that. They're looking for a refresh in these departments.
Yeah,
and I mean we spunked so much money. Not to say spunked, we spent loads of money last season. And if some of them don't work out, then you got to point the finger at some certain people. I think, is Gordon Greer still our loan manager? Would some of those dodgy loans come under him?
Yeah, I think it is. And I don't think he organises it. I don't know how the internal structures work, but I think he's more just talking to players while they're on loan, rather than or talking about how they can develop while on loan, rather than just going, oh yeah, we're going to send you to Blackburn. We're going to send you to Reading, which we seem to be obsessed with at the moment because we've got 2 players on loan there who don't seem to be getting games. I think actually not to bring up these 2 particular loans which have done badly, but Carl Rushworth and James Beadle, we've sent them on loan. They don't even get games. That's pretty poor loan decisions. You look at some of the transfers in have been a bit odd. Cash in, we've stopped. I think we've stopped looking at getting new, young, exciting players and just chasing old targets who don't fit. Cash in. I would argue Matt O'Reilly is an old target which just didn't fit. I think there's good reason to be refreshing the transfer thing. The timing does seem a little bit weird to do it just after the window's closed. But then also at the same time, if you're not having any disagreements and you're satisfied with it, it does sort of seem like, in a way, the perfect time, because you get everybody in, sorted for the season. Now we've got 6 months until transfers have to, or till January, until transfers have to be done again. So you've got a nice period for them to settle in, work on targets, see what we can do around January and assess the club sort of in the background before they have to get down to any nitty-gritty work. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. I think we've needed this for a little while.
Yeah, I say. I know we do it quite a lot where we hire in-house or we promote in-house at the club. Obviously, when Ashworth left, right? Then David Weir was appointed from assistant. Oh, I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he was obviously pushed up. Sometimes I think that's a good idea because then you've got people that still know the club and how they work, rather than hiring externally. But I guess if the person's not up to scratch internally, then you should look elsewhere, and that's probably the same for quite a lot of companies, not just in sport.
And I do feel like that's what's kind of happened here. You know, we've been very consistent on hiring internally, and you know, it has sort of become like, look, here's everybody who used to play for the club working in the club at some point. But now I do think it is time to sort of be like, right, maybe the transfer business has been a bit scattergun, hasn't been great. I think even since the window before the European season, we've had some all over the place transfer decisions. So yeah, I do think it's definitely right.
Let's go and get Daniel Levy. I've heard he's free.
Yeah, well, CEO.
Him and Tony. That'd be class. Him and Tony at the helm. All right. Him, Barbara, and Tony. What a threesome that would be. Maybe not for our club, but we'll get a go-kart track underneath the Amex. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is everything from the game. We unpacked quite a lot there. No, Maz, let us know how you thought of this duo. We haven't done one of us.
Yeah, I know.
Just one with us two for ages, Jack. But
he's a good host, Maz. I'll give him that.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Yeah. He's a good.
It's because I'm normally too hungover to even just do it. So I'm like, Maz, go on, mate. But
we don't know where he is today. Don't know where he is.
Yeah, he actually hasn't said.
Probably doing something more important like the overlap.
Or celebrating his birthday.
Oh yeah,
His birthday the other day. Maybe he's doing.
That's probably that's a lot more logical, isn't it? So that's we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. But yeah, hopefully you'll see this episode maybe Sunday evening. This is Sunday morning. The reason why I wear a hat all the time as well, if anyone's wondering, probably no one is because I get out of bed and I get in the chair and we film because it's Sunday morning. can't be asked to shower before. There's no point.
I should wear a hat because my hairline is the wing backs are flying high.
The wing backs. Looking like the referee from yesterday. Is it David Banks? No,
Yeah, David Banks, yeah.
Who was shite, by the way. But
Peter
Jack-
Banks.
Peter Banks, yeah. Who's David Banks?
Don't know.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Make sure.
Yeah,
to
I was
like,
going to do
subscribe.
one final thing. If anybody's not doing anything and live in the London area, Brighton under-21 is playing Sutton away. They don't do very well at advertising these games, but, you know, it might be worth a watch for you.
When are you playing?
Tuesday night, 7 o'clock.
Oh, I'm busy.
In Sutton.
I actually would have been keen.
There you go. Well, unlucky for you, I guess, Ben.
I'm at a pub quiz. Maybe you can come to the pub quiz instead because they need you.
No. And that's it.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you for the Spurs preview. God, it's all happening thick and fast.
Yeah.
Brian, about we.
Don't stop.